You're listening to the podcast that you clicked on. That is the Bharatiya Janata podcast. Welcome, folks. The usual gang is here. And for the first segment of this episode, we plan to discuss the recent events that happened with the West Indian cricketer Darren Sammy. Darren,
इवेंट तो रिसेंट नहीं था वैसे.
recent,
हाँ.
मतलब event नहीं recent था, but he came
रिसेंट
out
खुलासा.
recently. Recently, he came out. Um,
And it's actually pretty amazing, right? Someone who went through all that 6 years ago eventually is watching a Netflix show by a brown Muslim guy in the US, and then he realizes what had happened. It's
exactly. And
pretty amazing, yeah.
so before we start talking about this, as we decided, just a quick warning for all people who listen to us. They know that we have a certain way of dealing with the things, and it might not always be um, like we might always not know what could trigger you. So if you think that discussions around racism and the way racism is dealt with, especially in India and the subcontinent, could trigger you, uh, perhaps just move on to the next segment of this episode, which will happen post the 35th minute point, I'll say. Safety reasons, I guess. So, with that, we will move and start discussing about Darren Sammy. So, Hassan Minaj on Netflix did an episode of Patriot Act where he talked specifically about racism in the South Asian community. And Darren Sammy, the cricketer, was listening to it, and he realized that back in 2014, when he was playing for the Sunrisers Hyderabad, uh, he was subjected to the term Kalu, as in his fellow Indian cricketers were calling him Kalu. And then later, pictures resurfaced rather, from Ishan Sharma's Instagram account, where there is Ishan Sharma, Dale Steyn, Darren Sammy, और एक और कौन था, मैं चौथा कौन था, मैं भूल गया. Bhuvneshwar Kumar.
Bhubaneswar, yeah.
Bhuvneshwar Kumar. And he's saying me, Bhuvi, Guns Risers for Dale Steyn and Kalu. Um, so that is how it all started. So I will first reach out to you, Nishant. Initial thoughts. I mean, मेरे को एक्सपेक्टेड था कि ऐसा कुछ तो होता ही होगा, क्योंकि ये सब लोग तो निकले अपने ही बीच
Ha
से.
ha ha. Yeah. I mean, it's
Not that
all.
we have never done it in the past.
Of
Okay,
course.
so,
I mean,
Of course we have, and I mean, we have seen it happen to others in our houses, right? Uh, मतलब my sister was always told पता नहीं क्या मुल्तानी मिट्टी लगा लो, उपटन लगा लो, गोरी रहोगी, and all those things. So yeah, it's
चाय मत पियो.
चाय
एक और
मत
लोग हैं.
exactly
पियो.
चाय मत पियो नहीं तो I mean yeah, I mean that's just amazing. I was almost I mean I think 10th 12th क्लास तक मैं यही सोचता था कि अच्छा हुआ मैंने चाय नहीं पी, नहीं तो मैं काला हो जाता.
भाई,
और ये
Actually.
सोच के भी देखना, मतलब अगर किसी बच्चे को डराना है चाय कॉफी नहीं पीना है ये बोलने के लिए, तो द मोस्ट इफेक्टिव वे प्रोबेबली वुड हैव बीन दैट, राइट? सो आज तक अगर चलते आ रहा है, मतलब इट वुड हैव वर्कड एट सम
And in my case, like my dad and one of my uncles who really they like Odelo chai, right? I mean they used to drink so much tea, and they just happen to be
I'm
slightly
drinking
darker
tea
skin.
right now, by the way.
No, and they just happen to be slightly darker skinned than other people. So I mean, like they were actually
उसका कोई
used as
correlation है
examples.
क्या?
नहीं, they were actually used as examples कि ये देखो पापा बहुत ज्यादा चाय पीते हैं, तो वो मतलब काले हैं, तो तुम मत पियो, मतलब that was that.
मैं तो हूँ ही थोड़ा सा डार्क, थोड़ा सा क्या, मैं डार्क हूँ बेसिकली. और मैं तो मतलब बेसिकली स्कूल्स वगैरह में
Established. चाय
स्पेशली
पीते पीते हो गया. हाँ.
चाय पीते पीते हो गया. अरे क्रिकेट खेलते थे ना यार, इन द सेंस हम लोग क्रिकेट, तो लोग इनफैक्ट आई रिमेम्बर 11th 12th के समय, जो like I had a high school girlfriend back then, and she said कि देखो तुम काले हो रहे हो, and I was like हाँ, क्योंकि धूप में खेलता हूँ मैं, but like
धूप में खेलने वाला कालापन doesn't stick if but anyway.
yeah, it doesn't stick, but the point is, every time this discussion happens, right, there are two things that I kind of think about.
इसका
First,
एक और रेसिस्ट एक्सटेंशन बताऊं?
बता दे आज.
ये हमारे हमारे स्कूल में मतलब इसी का एक्सटेंशन एक और डिस्कशन होता है. एंड द रीजन साउथ में लोग ज़्यादा काले हैं क्योंकि कॉफ़ी पीते हैं, विच इज़ कॉफ़ी इज़ अ डार्कर ड्रिंक देन टी ना, सो उसकी वजह से.
अच्छा, मैं अपना एकदम इनोसेंट दिमाग का बताऊं थोड़ा सा तुम लोग को. मेरा इनोसेंट दिमाग ने मुझे, जब मैं एकदम 6-7 स्टैंडर्ड में जब था, तब मैंने ये सोचा कि साउथ में लोग ज्यादा काले इसलिए क्योंकि धूप वहां पे ज्यादा पड़ती है,
ज़्यादा होता है.
नॉर्थ में
Exactly.
ठंडी ज्यादा है.
Yeah, exactly. This was the.
बट द थिंग इज कि
Um,
जैसे राजस्थान में भी तो है ठंड, गर्मी काफी पड़ती है. तो
नहीं,
इतना
इक्वेटर पास करता है ना वहां से. ये मेरा एक्चुअल लॉजिक था ये एट वन
नहीं,
पॉइंट.
विच इज, आई मीन लाइक, इट्स true in a weird sense ki, like we all come from Africa, and Africa is like equator crosses through Africa, and the first Homo sapiens, so as to say, it has been proven that they were like African.
Ethiopians, yeah.
Yeah, Ethiopia, so they were definitely darker. And the funny thing is that Europeans who are white because those Homo sapiens, mm, क्या word, copulation is the right word, I think, copulated
And
with the Neanderthals.
yeah, no, and
Might have,
also,
मतलब.
do you? I would recommend this. It's a 2 or 3 year old video I remember. So the CNN guy, this Anderson Cooper, okay. So there was this thing about some researchers found out. This is a slight tangent, but some researchers had found out that they had sort of developed a prototype of the first inhabitants of Europe. Like this was like, I don't know, very very early in human history, and they were of course dark skinned. And there is a video of Anderson Cooper, and then at the same time, or maybe I'm mixing two things, but there's a way that you know this 23andMe and all those. So somehow Anderson Cooper is reacting to finding out how his great ancestors look like, and I'm talking about Anderson Cooper. Like मतलब उससे ज़्यादा white इंसान बहुत ही कम होते
Yeah,
हैं.
he's lily white जिसे कहते हैं.
Yeah, and the way he reacts, oh my god, it's pretty funny actually. So you should check it out. कि मतलब first like I mean he realizes, oh my god, he's, because at that point I don't know, then he suddenly realizes कि he works for CNN, so he's like trying to be happy कि oh yes मैं brown ancestors, but whatever.
So,
सोच अगर वो फॉक्स के लिए काम करता तो.
which reminds me कि because Aditya, you edit our videos, so at this point, can you put? So there is this famous clip, and I hope the two of you have seen it. If you have not seen it, I like go on YouTube and see it right now. It's the Fox News ex-Fox News anchor Megyn Kelly saying on Fox News that there's the truth. Santa is white. So was Jesus. It's just the truth. Which to our listeners, Jesus, maybe you've seen that image, but Jesus was from Palestine, and most likely he looked much more like us than
Yeah, he was
Megyn
a
Kelly.
brown guy from
Yeah.
Palestine, of course.
So that is that. But whenever we talk about colorism or racism, and I'm using the word colorism because in India, well, this is again like, what is race? This will become a more fundamental, like there is nothing like race. If you read something like genes of,
Race is not a biological construct.
exactly, it's a
Yeah,
it's a very socio-political construct, right? So in India you can also talk about racism because some people will be like, in India we are all the same race, so why are you using the term racism? So use colorism or something.
no, we live with South Indians, so we are not racist, right? As one of our ministers.
Eminent
Kailash ji.
intellectual.
Yeah,
कैलाश
intellectual.
विजयवर्गीय
The
ने
right wing
नहीं, कैलाश
intellectual.
विजयवर्गीय ने नहीं.
It sounds like something that Kailash Vijayavargi also thinks,
would say.
it sounds like, but it was someone else, yeah.
अरे
मतलब
अरे I
if
know.
you put this tweet out और नीचे कोट में if you attribute it to कैलाश विजयवर्गीय, he wouldn't of get
Yeah,
offended.
he would say कि हाँ बोला होगा, yeah.
बहुत कुछ बोल देता
अरे
हूँ,
वो
ये भी
तरुण
बोला ही.
विजय, तरुण विजय,
तरुण विजय, yes.
तरुण विजय
तरुण
ने कहा
विजय,
था.
हाँ.
उसके बाद भाई साहब वो डिफेंड करने भी आ गए थे अलग अलग न्यूज चैनल्स पे. Anyway,
So when we and I know that, like, broadly we are talking about cricket, and so let's just do this first. So let's first talk about this in the context of cricket, and then we can move to the context of this in subcontinent, color in subcontinent, right? So first of all, l- the fact that Sammy came out and talked about it, and this happened to him in IPL.
So I'm actually looking at that 2014 squad of Sunrisers.
गन स्क्वाड था वैसे.
हाँ, the squad was very good.
इसीलिए तो
उसमें
गनस्लिंगर भी था.
गनस्लिंगर सनराइजर में
उस
था, नहीं नहीं.
हाँ यार,
गनस्लिंगर.
स्टेन.
अच्छा,
हाँ,
स्टेन.
स्टेन
नहीं.
सॉरी
स्टेन
तूने
हो गया.
गनस्लिंगर बोला था, मैं मलिंगा सोचने लगा था.
No, so Jason Holder was also in that squad. I don't know 2014 में उसको कितना खिलाया क्या हुआ, but I would be interested in knowing if he also observed something. But he
इरफान
hasn't come out
पठान
and said anything.
recently said something that he was in the
Irfan was
squad.
also in the squad.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
Irfan
That's why
was
I was
also in that squad.
Irfan
Yeah.
sir. Weirdly, somehow the newspapers reach out to two people, Irfan Pathan and Parvez Rasool. I don't know why.
Hmm.
But Irfan Pathan said that he has no idea that this happened in the squad, but he knows that even during like Ranji and all, the South Indian cricketers often face such
So
competition.
yeah,
Do you think it is just the newspapers reaching out just to him? Probably they reached out to a lot many
he
people, but
spoke. Yeah, but he
only a
decided to
couple
spoke.
of
Yeah.
them speak. So
Hmm.
I don't think the newspapers would be shy of,
अच्छा, सबसे अजीब
say,
चीज़ पता है
airing
क्या
an
है?
opinion by Sachin Tendulkar or somebody.
सबसे अजीब चीज़ क्या है, बहुत ही कि जब सबसे पहले ये कमेंट आया ना दिमाग में, तो तुम लोग के दिमाग में ये था कि ईशान शर्मा का पिक्चर इज आउट, सो वी नो दैट
हाँ,
ही.
so हुआ तो था. Like it's not like कि
हाँ, नहीं
इरफान
नहीं,
के
हाँ,
सामने नहीं
नहीं,
हुआ
बट
होगा, but हुआ तो है.
कोई
Yeah.
प्ले तुम लोग ने जब ये न्यूज़ आई, सैमी ने ऐसा बोला कि यू गाइस लाइक इंस्टाग्राम में, ही डिड एन इंस्टाग्राम, सबसे पहले इट वाज हिज इंस्टाग्राम स्टोरी वेयर ही सेड जस्ट वॉच दिस एपिसोड एंड आई रिमेंबर दैट आई वाज कॉल्ड कालू एंड आई थॉट दैट इट मेंट स्टैलियन, सो मी एंड एक और किसी का नाम ले, वी थॉट परेरा, थेसारा परेरा, it they called us Kalu and we thought it's Stallion, but now realizing please brothers tell. तो जब उसने ऐसे brothers बोला, तुम लोग दिमाग में कौन से प्लेयर्स आए थे, मुझे ये बताओ.
मेरे दिमाग में क्लियरली वैसे तो मैंने सोचा नहीं था, बिकॉज आई डिडंट क्लियरली
हाँ, I
रिमेम्बर कि
also
उस
don't know.
टीम में
Yeah.
और इंडियंस कौन थे. बट if you just tell me कि I would have guessed someone, ये भी बहुत रेसिस्ट स्टेटमेंट ही हो गया. I would have even said Kohli at that point, a young Kohli.
मेरे दिमाग में क्या बहुत काफी क्या मनीष पांडे है उस स्क्वाड में क्या? मैं मेरे सामने स्क्वाड नहीं, इसलिए मैं पूछ रहा हूँ.
नहीं, उस स्क्वाड में मनीष पांडे नहीं है. I am
पता
looking
नहीं क्यों
at
मेरे
it.
दिमाग में मनीष
Just
पांडे है कि मनीष पांडे ऐसी हरकत है, पता नहीं क्यों. आई डोंट, उसके चेहरे में ऐसा कुछ है कि लगता है कि वो racist है.
जड्डू, what about?
जड्डू
ओ
actually.
जड्डू तो शायद अभी भी बोल देगा.
मतलब there are some names which pop up not because वो लोग they are more racist than others, just that they are less aware than others of being politically correct. That's all.
This is
हाँ, see जड्डू का with his actions and all, with his tweets and all, it's quite possible. I honestly don't know about Manish Pandey if he would be like that. I don't know. So by the way, ये जो इरफान ने बोला right about Ranji and South Indian, so I just googled, I was just googling.
अभिनव मुकुंद
हाँ
की
exactly, हाँ अभिनव मुकुंद का एक article back मिला मुझे हिंदुस्तान टाइम्स का, which is back in 2017, and he is saying the same thing कि मतलब ever since I've been playing, I've been traveling around the country and outside, and everyone seems to like, I have been, I'm reading this as the exact quote from the article. I have been traveling a lot within and outside our country since I was 15. Ever since I was young, people's obsession with my skin color has always been a mystery to me. Anyone who follows cricket would understand the obvious. And then he goes on to say that, मतलब वही, because being
he has
dark
mentioned about how both Indian and Ranji dressing rooms have both treated him like
yeah,
made
yeah, yeah,
jokes of
yeah, about his color, yeah.
and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the thing, right? I mean, it might sound a little odd to some people, but I think, see, white people. I'm not saying I'm not doing a Brita Perry here that I am fine with racism, but there is a clear distinction between white people and colored people, and then they then they are racist. But Indians among themselves, with not a lot of difference, they're still racist, which is something else.
which kind of is the second point that I wanted to talk about, which is caste. Because honestly, race has been a race बोल रहा हूँ, color has been a signifier of where one falls in the caste line. I have friends who are like quote unquote Brahmins but are darker, and they have heard, like they have had things कि अरे तुम ब्राह्मण नहीं लगते, ऐसा भी बोला गया लोगों
हाँ
को।
हाँ अरे and the other way around which is even more offensive
हाँ
that
हाँ,
you know that
कि how
अरे
can you
तुम
be
yeah a
SC,
lower
you're
caste yeah
fair,
yeah
हाँ।
yeah you're fair yeah
So, so I think when Nishant, you're talking about ki we are racist towards each. I think we cannot ignore the fact that a lot of it comes from the way we expect caste to
yeah
see,
exactly
like caste to look.
and also how basically the tribal Indian is portrayed in our epics and
And
generally in movies, even in
Bahubali,
modern
yeah
day
yeah
movies, right? The
Arey
the
Bahubali, yeah. Look at
huh.
it's the biggest, and that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not just in North India, even in South India, this is like rampant. Because
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you see
because
their
if you look
actresses, leading
Hmm.
actresses, if you see
random
jewelry
tangent
ads
No,
याद
and
no.
आ गया है।
huh.
And if you look at your average Telugu movie or any
Mhm.
movie,
Hmm.
if the hero is fairly dark skinned, right, on an average,
Hmm, hmm, hmm.
like if you pick a random guy on the streets, it's fairly dark skinned. But to establish that the a character is villainous, an
It's like
average
he has to be darker,
a
yeah.
masala Telugu movie has to be a shade darker than the
Yeah.
hero,
Of course, of
and
course.
which is why many a times these guys are actually shaded black, right? Like they're painted black
Hmm.
on
Hmm.
their face,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
In a lot of these movies.
Yeah.
So
Can I do an odd tangent? Have
Hmm.
both of you see? Do you? I'm sure you guys have seen that movie. Both of you remember Ishq?
hmm,
Of course, yeah. Huh.
तो
mara
उसमें
mara mara mara
हाँ
mara.
Mr.
उसमें
Lova Lova. Hmm.
उसमें वो याद है कि अजय देवगन का दादा बनता है आमिर खान एक सीन के लिए एंड ही
Hmm.
हाँ
इज
हाँ
लाइक
हाँ हाँ
पूरा ब्लैक फेस
Yeah,
दिस
yeah.
अजय
हाँ.
देवगन दादा आई जस्ट
विश्वात्मा में भी
रैंडमली याद आ गया मुझे कि
विश्वात्मा में एक सीन है वेयर दे आर इन नायरोबी और मोम्बासा और सम प्लेस, राइट, जहाँ पे चंकी पांडे ब्लैक फेस में
Hmm.
पोकर खेलने जाता है.
Yeah. I remember.
हाँ.
Or
तो
Nairobi, yeah. I mean, Nairobi बोल रहा हूँ. Yeah, not just Vishwatma. Many other movies.
many other movies. So, nahin, so coming back to this Darren Sammy incident, so when Sammy actually mentioned this, there was not a lot of disbelief in me कि ये हो कैसे सकता है या ये झूठ बोल रहा है. 1% भी मेरे लिए वैसा नहीं था. Basically, that is
Yeah.
where we are
I mean,
getting to.
it's like it's it's sad, but it's very.
Very
But that's a
plausible.
reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so there is one part of it which is the reaction from the Indian cricketers and BCCI.
Which is none.
Zero. And
Yeah.
this is surprising.
We,
This is surprising because BCCI या तो फिर ये वही पूरी मोदी जी वाली बात है जहाँ पे द ओनली थिंग दैट BCCI cares about is Indian media because Indian media as in Indian consumer doesn't give a fuck,
Hmm.
right? They
Mhm.
don't care. उनको उनको फर्क नहीं पड़ता and they are even defending it if you see on Twitter and all.
हाँ,
So
yeah.
so BCCI is like कि क्या फर्क पड़ता है अपन को कुछ बोलने की जरूरत नहीं है. पर दूसरा if BCCI imagines earning money from outside of India because I mean honestly like after all the George Floyd incidents you see American corporate react.
Yeah. Even if this would have happened in like the Big Bash or county cricket
Hmm.
में कहीं पे होता तो ECB would have not just spoken out, they would
Lack
have
of
taken action.
accountability, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. The sponsors pulling out is
Yeah,
not a
yeah.
Exactly.
real threat with the IPL, right? So,
So
so
basically
you,
मतलब
hmm.
इस चीज को थोड़ा सा आगे ले जाओ कि अ, थोड़ा सा tangent में मैं बात करूंगा and I know that we will talk about this in the other segments for BJPod is India Nepal and how this Indo Nepal relationship started deteriorating. But a quick point, um, Nepal was ratifying their constitutions in I think 2015 2016 when the whole Madhesi thing happened,
Hmm.
right? And Indian government back then Modi, they, which is again weird because an Indian prime minister cared about a country, Nepal
Democracy.
की minority.
Hmm.
Madhesis are
Hmm.
minority there, right?
Huh,
And he
minority.
wanted uh, for them to have more rights because the constitution was kind of sidelining them. This is Modi in India. Look at his constitution. But anyway, so and that's how the whole fracas started between India and Nepal, right? वहां से शुरू हुआ सब कुछ. तो लेकिन point ये कि why was he so, why did he want Madhesis to have this? Because Madhesis are basically Biharis and Bihar में state elections होते थे तब, and he thought कि by squeezing Nepal, he'll get more votes in Bihar.
Hmm.
So he basically allowed one foreign relation, which was like the closest foreign relation India has had since India's inception,
And ironically, the only Hindu country
go
for
to trash, so that he
Yeah,
could win Bihar,
yeah, and
right?
which he
So
didn't eventually.
which wo bhi
I mean, eventually, as in depends on कहाँ तक define कर रहे हैं. But at that time,
but the thing what I'm trying to go to is that he the government, the current government cares about what Indians think, and their foreign policy is also shaped by what Indians want or the
is
way
it?
they want to live.
Is it's basically because what will help them win the next state or the
Yeah,
next
exactly.
election? Yeah.
But like
Hmm.
even BCCI is basically just focused on that, right? They don't care about PR as long as it's
Yes.
not bad PR
Uh-huh,
visiting
yeah,
India.
yeah,
Agar
yeah.
to I a hypothetical such question to you. Instead of Sammy, if this had happened with an Indian cricketer from Tamil Nadu, do you think BCCI would have reacted differently, or do you think cricketers would have reacted?
I would even go to the extent of saying that if it was Chris Gale and not Darren Sammy, you might have actually had a reaction.
Yeah, maybe because he's more popular. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. No,
But
but
like,
my point was like it would like you said
but
earlier, it
Darren Sammy
would
at the cost of an Indian cricketer. Hey, Darren Sammy, no, Chris Gale at the cost of an Indian cricketer.
Probably
Because
not.
Punish
I
करने
mean,
जाएगी.
what
अभी
the cost,
literally
right? I mean, the cost would be just apologizing. It wouldn't be much more than that.
नहीं,
But my point was कि earlier what you said, the it matters. It only matters to them if the Indian media and Indian public is reacting. So because what happened to KL Rahul and Hardik Pandya, it happened
This is
because there
far
was.
worse than that, right?
I know, but it happened. But it
that
still
was not
happened because there was
anything.
kind
That
of
was
a.
just moral stupid. Like
Yeah,
Huh.
yeah.
like
No,
वो
but there was an
they're having
outrage. There
sex.
was an
What the fuck?
outrage. No, no. Again, it was just a perception thing. It happened only because there was an outrage. तो इस केस में unfortunately cricket fans are defending, so they don't care. Yeah,
Exactly right. So let's compare these two most recent incidents, both the Pandya incident and this one.
Mhm.
Essentially, look at what we outrage at and whether it is proportionate to the actual crime in that case, right? Like in Darren Sammy's case, there has been absolutely no outrage, and when probably there should have been some. And in fact, instead of outraging, we've actually gone the other way around and we've defended the act, right? Which is even more embarrassing than what happened. Like I don't think Darren Sammy, if you listen to his interviews and what he has spoken on some podcasts, he is not actually talking in the sense that he's not even asking them to apologize, right? So what he says is that I only expect some of them to call me and explain to me what it actually meant back
yeah,
then, right? And look at it as an opportunity to educate people about why it is wrong.
yeah.
So I don't even think even that aspect of this has been covered. It's not even as if I don't think there is any West Indian cricketer today who would actually go to the extent of asking a body like BCCI or the IPL to apologize, right?
Sadly, they cannot. And
They cannot. The cricket is so lopsided in favor of financial dependence on India is so much that that is never going to happen. Which is why I said Chris Gale, probably because Chris Gale is still a big enough brand name in India. With Darren Sammy's case, look at
Even Malinga के
e-
साथ भी होता तो
even
शायद. Yeah,
look at Sammy's case, right? So Sammy might have been a World Cup winning captain for the West Indies, but he even West Indies maybe is Darren Sammy, right? He's not a
yeah.
superstar of, and what India looks at is not what is being spoken, but who is speaking it.
भाई मैंने तो यहाँ तक के
Sadly,
डिफेंस भी देखे हैं उसको कि डिफेंस देखे हैं इस चीज के कि recently Darren Sammy was given an honorary
by Pakistan.
Pakistani citizenship, so that's why he's
Hmm.
doing it. So
Yeah.
जब level ही ये है तो yeah, I mean I don't know.
A- and the other kind of responses that we have got is कि हमारे यहाँ घर पे बच्चों को
Like that's fine.
निकनेम
हाँ
दिया जाता
हाँ
है,
निकनेम दे
मतलब
दिया
as if
जाता
that is okay.
है exactly as if that's okay मतलब
so I think the Chris Gale comparison is very fair. I think uh, now moving on to the to another aspect. Imagine this had happened in Big Bash or or England, right?
Hmm.
Imagine an a current English cricketer was found to have put a picture on social media where he said me and the blackie. Let's
निक
say,
कॉम्पटन की बात तो नहीं कर रहे हो आप?
how would like if Ishan Sharma was a white guy representing England, what would be his punishment? And
If
what would have happened?
I would go to the extent of saying if Ishan Sharma ke badle had this been done by Josh Butler, the Indian media would have covered it.
Yeah. But again, I
And it
think
happened in the IPL, but the allegations were on Ishan Sharma. Rather than Ishan Sharma, it was Butler or Owen Morgan who had done it. The entire Indian media would have covered it and defended Darren Sammy in that case.
Yeah,
It's the
it's
like,
possible. Yeah.
it's the inability to accept that we can go wrong, and there is
Yeah, it's the hypocrisy there, right? With all the celebrities actually concerned about Black Lives Matter, but nothing about how minorities are treated.
and somehow this belief that the fact that we were colonized does it that automatically means that we cannot be racist. I think that's another myth that deserves to be busted.
मैं ये भी सुना है कि कृष्ण भी हमारे तो भगवान ही काले हैं, तो हम कहाँ से रेसिस्ट हो सकते हैं?
Krishna
हाँ,
वैसे
भगवान काले हैं, काली देवी हैं, तो मतलब
हाँ,
yeah,
काली
but,
माता।
but even there you look at the euphemism, right? Krishna is always I don't know if I should be even speaking it on this podcast, but I don't know. But Krishna is generally portrayed as blue. You never own up to his
No, and the actual
euphemism
Kali
You mean
actual
Krishna is a
Kali
god?
actually no, the actual Kali like
Mata.
that avatar, she's black, all right.
but she is very
But
brutal and
yeah,
violent.
exactly. She's being barbaric in that time. So I mean that shows
Oh
you.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the story is this, right? So, and again, I don't know if this we should talk about, but who cares, right? If you're listening to us, and if you don't like this,
Expect
just stop listening to. Yeah. So like Kali Mata या जगन्नाथ पुरी वाला जो like क्या विष्णु है ना, right? जगन्नाथ पुरी, right?
Vishnu.
But basically so they were basically tribal gods, right?
Yeah.
And
Appropriated
by the broader Hindu faith. And that's why a lot of their instincts are tribal instincts, which are not very Brahmanical in nature. Like if you imagine like a Brahmin, even a Tam Brahm or a North Indian Brahmin, right? Let's not talk about Kashmiri Pandits or Bengali Brahmins at this point. So Kali Mata does not fit in their scheme of things, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because she's basically like eating meat and killing people and all of that, right? And none of so all of these were basically so ये stories हैं, इनको back date करके accommodate किया गया है.
Yeah.
But हाँ, कहीं ना कहीं अपनी I think
It's like एक कोई अगर स्टैंडअलोन कॉमिक बुक हीरो का मूवी
मार्वल
था
बोल दे हाँ वही तो है. एवेंजर्स ही तो है हमारा.
और उसके बाद देन इन द लार्जर स्कीम ऑफ थिंग्स बिकॉज मार्वल एंड गेम तक लेके जाना था, तो देन वी एडेड अनदर ट्रैक कि यहाँ पे एंटमैन आ गया, वहाँ से वो आ गया वैसे. सो देन यू हैव लाइक दिस ब्रॉडर यूनिवर्स, राइट? मल्टीपल अवतार्स. अगेन ट्रिगर वार्निंग देना चाहिए पहले से.
हमें तो पहले ही दे दिया ना अपने. बट द थिंग इज कि ultimately it boils down to we look at hierarchy. The way our society is structured is an invisible hierarchy, visible also, but invisible. I'm using the word invisible is because to accommodate the Caucasian white race and the African black people, right? Basically, the moment a white person enters India, they become an like honorary Brahmin. That's how they're treated.
Yeah.
Like this super Brahmin.
Super Brahmin.
Yeah.
And that is so I would probably have mentioned this otherwise. So in a hypothetical alternate history, if say the East India Company was actually say Ethiopian, would the Indians have fallen for them?
Have we talked about this before? I think
we've talked about this off the record.
Achha, haan.
But yeah, so I don't know, for some reason I believe that we were more accommodative. We were more accommodative even at the feudal level में हम लोगों का we were more accommodative of the white men coming in, and we trusted them a lot more because of their complexion.
Yeah, because they also I mean yeah, I mean, your point is absolutely right, and they sort of promise the ruling class at that point that they can keep, suppressing who they have been suppressing. So,
So there is a story, right, in this Manu Pillai's book, the Italian Brahmin,
Hmm.
the courtesan and the Mahatma, where he talks about the Italian Brahmin that he mentions. So how he goes about converting that village is first getting the Brahmins to convert, right?
hmm,
The Brahmins convert, and then they convert uh, to Christianity, and then they continue wearing their janeyu, right? In that,
hmm,
and that is like a selling point to the other people in the village, right? The non-Brahmin communities in the village. This is their way of like marketing kara rahe hain basically.
yeah,
Ki, and the way they sold it to the Brahmins was that Gora koi aa raha hai, to matlab the
सही
Gora
होगा,
had
हाँ,
to had to sell it in such a fashion that I am like this super Brahmin kind of a
hmm,
I belong to that kind of a strata, and which is why you converting is not very, like, you are not downgrading yourself. It's actually an upgrade for you.
upgrade,
So
yeah,
that, yeah,
I mean, we can take your hypothesis even back. Like, if and again, this is we are just three engineers, so we
yeah,
think
we
we
can
know
talk about
everything
everything.
exactly. So I am taking your hypothesis even back. If like we talk about Muslim invasion in India, but remember all of these people were Turkish and Central Asian. If they were not Turkish or Central Asian, like because in the end, what I'm trying to say is that even for invading armies, the war is not being fought every day, right?
Yes. Hmm.
Ultimately, to beat someone, you politically align with someone, and
Hmm.
then like Nadir Shah Aya, he captured Sindh,
Hmm.
but after like once he's captured Sindh, everyone else knows that he has captured Sindh, right? So
yeah,
Hmm.
there is politics that is being played, and I think personally, if they were, I mean, I'm just stretching your hypothesis. If what if they were not like they were Turkish and Central Asian means they were fairer,
Hmm.
right?
Fairer. Huh.
And there was something about that because like I've been trying to read about the trade routes of that in period of India before जो बुद्धिस्ट पीरियड था इसके पहले राइट तो
Hmm.
बुद्धिस्ट पीरियड का अफ्रीका के साथ एंड आई एम रियलाइजिंग दैट अ लॉट ऑफ ट्रेड वाज हैपनिंग विद नॉर्थ अफ्रीका
Yes.
but and a lot of trade was also happening with Central Asia. But we never, I don't know, maybe this is something because this is way before Industrial Revolution, so we cannot say
Hmm.
ki,
yeah.
like race.
Trade routes and
Huh.
stuff also
But
mattered. Huh.
but like ultimately, everyone who won over us was fairer than us. As a
It's also about how much do you open up, right? So say the East India Company came as a trading company, and if you had to open up to them for them to get some sort of traction in the subcontinent, so that wouldn't happen if you are in the first place not very trusting of them. So
going
And I
back,
think just one more
sorry.
thing that I wanted to add, like again, it's a slight tangent from the Sammy story, but just about this, pandering to white people thing. So why do you think, like Modi ji and other like Bhakts, why do they hate Nehru so much? It's the same reason, right? Matlab, he was like educated with the Goras. He
hmm.
got Gori women attention. So that's it, right? I mean, so
But even there, right? So I don't think they hate the idea of a Gora as much as the Gora liberal, modern Gora liberal values, right?
they want to be they want to keep their old pathetic values, but want to be Goras. Yeah.
They would be completely okay with a Gora who is absolutely racist and even a white supremacist for that extent.
So that's what
Like,
Hindu Americans and Republican Hindu coalition is in the US.
so they'll
Yeah,
align there, but
yeah.
they wouldn't be okay with a, a Gora liberal because a Gora liberal will go after them as much as they would go after uh, a Muslim guy or a black guy, right?
Yeah.
So
अभी तो हार्वर्ड
निधि
हाँ
राजदान भी आ रही है. हाँ.
हार्वर्ड की इज्जत कम हो गई है
हार्वर्ड पे फेथ लूज हो गया है, अब तो पता नहीं क्या होगा भाई, देख लेना आदित्य, मतलब बेरोजगार ना हो जाओ तुम.
वो तो पहले से हो गया ना, मोदी जी ने तो बहुत पहले,
ओह
मतलब
अच्छा,
इलेक्शन
हाँ।
जीतने के
मतलब
पहले ही मोदी जी
अब
ने डीलेजिटिमाइज पहले ही कर दिया ना
अब
सब।
अब अब अगर आदित्य वापस इंडिया में जाके जॉब्स ढूंढेगा प्रोफेसर की, तो बोलेंगे कि कहाँ से हो? बोले हार्वर्ड से। गलगोटिया से हो तो बताना।
हाँ।
बट डैरेन
डैरन
सो
सैमी,
या
हाँ।
आई थिंक
What would force the BCCI to speak? Like, would
market
there
forces.
be?
So this is the same thing that, and again, this is not part of our agenda, but we are recording this on the day that the news came out that Sushant Singh Rajput, the Bollywood actor,
Hmm.
died. Um, so and then there's of course that happened, but the way media has covered that news has been problematic, right?
With
oh
zero
my god,
sensitivity.
Zero
yeah, yeah,
sensitivity, right? But the thing that I keep going back to is this: you tell me, how many times around you have you heard this news that the picture of his dead body is being shared widely? Not on, I'm not talking about
Hmm.
news channel, I'm talking about WhatsApp, right?
Hmm.
This is happening. So what I'm trying to say is ki ultimately, be it the BCCI, be it the news media, they are a symptom of the problem that is in the society. The society craves for such
yeah,
things,
yeah, yeah,
right?
exactly.
Even more than that, right? So this is, at least we are talking about absolute zero sensitivity. I completely completely disagree that this should be shared. So like, I don't stand for it. We do even worse, right? So when there is, so a few years ago there was a case of a minor girl who and there was a case of date rape or something like that in my town.
Mhm.
And within a couple of days of that incident, these are family WhatsApp groups sharing photos of, they say this is the girl that this
Hmm.
incident took place to. There is absolutely zero sensitivity to the fact that the victim deserves privacy in
Hmm.
this case.
And
Yeah.
also like there
And
would be not just sharing and मतलब उसकी privacy तो कहीं भाड़ में,
hmm,
but they would be blaming her कि मतलब इस तरह से, yeah, she must be signal दे रही होगी
This is
कुछ
there is
मतलब
also
ऐसा कर
this
रही होगी.
human tendency of, I don't know, this is something very
this
human,
is
I think.
voyeurism and very,
हाँ, where
yeah,
we want to be the first one to break the news, like ए
news.
ये
And
लड़की थी.
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, today what I've observed in a lot of my friend and family circle is कि people in India are refusing to just believe कि depression कुछ होता है और कोई ऐसा इंसान, you know, एक it's actually an illness and कुछ एक इंसान
कोई
ऐसा कदम उठा सकता है उसमें. तो because they are like कि कुछ, I think it was ABP news or something, वो तो भाई पड़ोसी के घर घुस गए कि you know, first they started
कैसे थे
showing
वो
कि
ये वो.
वो कैसे थे ये वो, एंड वो पड़ोसी बोल रहे कि ऐसे कैसे कोई डिप्रेस होकर ऐसा कुछ कर सकता है, हम तो सरकार से गुजारिश कर रहे हैं कि जांच होनी चाहिए. आई मीन व्हाट द
And the
फक.
other notion that
And so
you are
people
too
are actually believing
uh,
this, and people are is saying कि मतलब अब now that they have got this trope, they have turned it this horrible incident which they actually should be using to, you know, bring a health expert, mental health expert, and talk about mental illness and all those things. They are actually treating it as like कि अब ये तो भाई एक mystery वो हो गई है. You know, the exact thing they did with Sridevi's death. कि बोनी
and the
कपूर ये
idea
कर रहे
that
थे, बोनी कपूर वो कर रहे थे. So yeah, I mean,
huh, yeah, and this we have seen in the past too, right? So the fact that Western societies are more aware of mental health as an issue means that you will have a lot of these Australian and English cricketers opting out of tours, right?
Yeah,
So
we've
it
talked about
happened
this.
with,
Yeah.
Trescothick in the past. It has happened with Jonathan Trott a few years ago,
hmm.
and as recently as, like, I think 2019 or 20, uh,
Maxwell did you say? Yeah.
Maxwell pulled out,
Hmm.
right, of
Yeah.
a tour
Hmm.
to India.
Hmm.
So if you look at, and even racism, like Jofra Archer's case, when he called out some New Zealand fans for racism,
Hmm.
which was like November or December last year.
Yeah.
In all of these cases, if you look at the Twitter responses, the most bigoted and vitriolic response and the most insensitive responses come from South Asia in general.
Hmm.
I would not just say that it comes only from India.
Hmm.
The general response is this, both in case of racism and in case of mental health, is that a Western societies में है तो you are basically
Hmm.
much weaker individuals. You have to toughen up. अगर इतने टफ नहीं हो तो ये स्पोर्ट खेल क्यों रहे हो. दिस इज द रेस्पॉन्स टू. कभी देखा है इंडियन क्रिकेटर को तुमने मेंटल हेल्थ के केस में
वो
कोई
भी एक
टूर से
डिस्कशन का
पुल आउट?
टॉपिक है कि मतलब क्यों,
हम्म.
बिकॉज एक तो पहले अंडरस्टैंडिंग नहीं है, और
हाँ.
दूसरा आई मीन आई समटाइम्स seriously feel for these guys, because if there is one group of cricketers that should have extreme anxiety issue, that's Indian cricketers, man.
Indian cricketers, yeah.
Because the amount of pressure that they have.
Yeah.
और सेम विद जोफ्रा आर्चर के केस में, जोफ्रा आर्चर व्हेन ही कंप्लेन्ड ऑफ समवन मेकिंग रेसिस्ट स्लर्स फ्रॉम द न्यूजीलैंड क्राउड, देसी पब्लिक को पता नहीं क्या हो रहा था कि ये टफन अप, इंग्लैंड में तो ये चांस मिला है, ये बड़ी बात है. मतलब व्हाई शुड इट बी दैट वे, राइट? दिस टाइज इनटू द सेम रिस्पांस दैट इरफान पठान गॉट रिसेंटली.
And even, I mean, see, we don't understand, right? We have already talked about the precursor to the monkey gate, where I don't know if we did talk about it on the record.
No, we have not spoken about it on the record.
But it's the crowd. The crowd is always racist. So
because I have, I think, mentioned this on the pod probably. So the Indian crowds, we are so unimaginative with our chants. Either our chants are generally yelling out the names of the players, like Sachin, Sachin, मतलब ये chant है, ठीक है? धोनी, धोनी, मतलब
टोन भी चेंज नहीं की.
दिस इज, ये टोन ले लो और इसमें कुछ भी बिठा दो, और ये नॉन रेसिस्ट चैंट्स. इसके बाद अगर 2 पेप्सी और पीने के बाद अपना पब्लिक, क्योंकि देश में तो बियर नहीं मिलता है ना, तो बे 13 में तो ये बहाना दे सकते हो कि बियर चल रहा है अंदर. यहाँ पे तो वो भी नहीं. 2 या 3 पेप्सी और एक छाछ पी के अंकल जी बोलने लगते हैं कि अरे सरदार नाचना, भांगड़ा कर,
ए मोंटी,
ए मोंटी.
I actually surprised कि वो सिर्फ मोंटी को बोला. I'm pretty sure ये मतलब actually an Indian player को भी, सिद्धू या हरभजन को भी बोला जा सकता था ये, या हो सकता है बोला भी गया हो.
बोला भी गया हो, मैंने तो मोंटी के केस में देखा है. एंड देन even worse, yaar, the kind of abuse that the West Indian cricketers might be getting in India, I am pretty sure there is much worse happening. Like डैरन सामी के केस में तो उसने सुना अपने टीममेट से इसके लिए, बट आई एम प्रीटी श्योर इंडियन क्राउड्स डू इट, बिकॉज व्हेन आई वाज इन दिस इंडिया ऑस्ट्रेलिया गेम, देयर वाज दिस एंटायर स्टैंड, a section of the stand which actually did monkey gestures, and to their credit, this is 2007 that I'm talking about. I think Ratnakar Shetty was the secretary of Mumbai Cricket Association back then. Ratnakar Shetty actually announced it in the ground that whatever you are doing, that we have zero tolerance to racism, and these guys were evicted within the next half an hour. So, which is absolutely progressive for India, I would say.
Yeah.
उस टाइम के लिए. इनफैक्ट तभी तो मुझे भी अवेयरनेस नहीं था, मैं सोच रहा था इनको बाहर क्यों निकाल दिया ग्राउंड से, मतलब दिस इज व्हाट आई थॉट बैक देन, बट इट एक्चुअली डिड हैपन बैक देन. सो अनइमेजिनेटिव ये, और इवेंचुअली हम लोगों का फिर द नेक्स्ट सेट ऑफ चांट्स दैट वी हैव इज बेसिकली गणपति बप्पा मोरिया. हमारे पास यही 3 ऑप्शन है, मतलब हम ऐसा नहीं है कि कोई गाना बना के जा रहा है.
अरे भारत माता की भी तो है ना.
हाँ, जीतेगा भाई जीतेगा. So yeah, I think there is a broader problem, and then this ties into the fact that one thing which we didn't speak about is the silence, right? So the radio silence that it is responded to by our stalwarts.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's
people like Sachin Tendulkar, like
see, I don't know why. See, yeah, because see, Shikhar Dhawan was also in that squad. In this,
Yes.
he has, an immigrant wife in Australia. I'm sure कुछ तो उसको वो ज्ञान देती होगी ना, because at least in Australia में भी है racism, but India से थोड़ा slightly better ही है. तो कुछ तो, I mean, it's not like these guys are not aware. They're just not saying anything. I mean, they did.
Because one thing which we don't get is something which Sambit Bal has very nicely put is, offense not meant is not always offense not taken. It doesn't have to be that.
Yeah.
So I think that is something we absolutely do not get. But my problem, the bigger problem, and this is not just restricted to the case of Indian cricketers not speaking out in case of Darren Sammy. They have not even spoken out in support of their fellow India teammate for a long time. Like Irfan Pathan, when he speaks out and he's getting trolled on a daily basis by these Twitter trolls.
It's so sad, man. Irfan Pathan ka to, like, a guy like who was the man of the match when India won a World Cup against Pakistan.
Pakistan.
The guy.
ये तो चकदे वाला सीन भी नहीं है. चकदे इंडिया में तो हाँ.
I mean, he was successful. Right. He went to Australia. He was in that famous series.
अरे इनफैक्ट इसका करियर का claim to fame is entirely on Pakistan. Test hat trick. हाँ. Not that again a disclaimer. Not that a Muslim Indian player has to perform against Pakistan to be considered great.
Yes, but he still has to, like, abhi matlab, it was so sad that he actually had to say, कि he had to
मैं
clarify.
गद्दार नहीं हूँ.
हाँ,
हाँ.
he had to clarify, which is so sad. I mean,
Essentially that, right? So LK Advani famously mentions in a campaign speech, or there is a rally just around the I think the ये वाला Rath Yatra times,
hmm.
uh, where and Azhar scores 100 apparently around the same time, and Advani in one of his campaign speeches mentions that देखो मुसलमान होना है तो ऐसा मुसलमान बनो जो देश के लिए 100 बना रहा है, but the
The
point
Rohit
is
Shetty version, na the
द रोहित शेट्टी वर्जन. द पॉइंट इज दैट वो अगर उस दिन जीरो पे आउट होता है तो क्या वो कम इंडियन हो जाता एज अ. एंड हाउ इज Azruddin getting out on zero any different to Sachin Tendulkar getting out on zero? So it's a disclaimer. So I don't mean to say that is a prerequisite for him to be considered as a patriot or whatever.
uh, Irfan Pathan, and this again ties to the whole Sami or Sammy incident.
Sammy,
Sorry.
by the way,
Sammy
was the
Pakistan.
captain. तो सोच रहा है, मतलब he was the captain of the squad.
Yeah.
But again, सब पहले चीज इंडियन क्रिकेटर्स जो करंट क्रिकेटर्स या इवन एक्स क्रिकेटर्स, एक तो अगेन दे कम फ्रॉम us. So I am inclined to believe that a lot, even if they're playing with someone like an Irfan Pathan or a Mohammad Shami or a Mohammad Kaif, they अंदर तो मतलब like पीठ पीछे तो वो भी उसको बोलते ही होंगे यार ये तो, you know. And the fact that they're not saying anything just tells me
It's
there is a gag from BCCI, and also they tacitly agree.
But in Irfan Pathan's case, it's not even a BCCI thing that he's talking about, right? In Irfan Pathan's case, it's talking about a bigger social evil.
Yeah,
It has
it all
nothing to do with.
started with him just saying that कि people are denied like renting houses in societies because of their religion. That's what he said. इसमें क्या problem है? Like इसमें तो BCCI cricket से कुछ related भी नहीं.
or in general, the fact that he's speaking the right things, उससे problem है लोगों को basically. It started off with this Abhinav Mukund thing, right? So this cricketers from the south wala case, that is what he first spoke about, and then he went on to say that discrimination is not just on the basis of race in India, but someone not being granted a house in in a residential apartment
Yeah.
on the basis of their religion is also discrimination. It's no different. So this is what he mentioned, right? So him speaking out, do you think the response would have been any different had it come from, say, not Irfan Pathan but Jasprit Bumrah, let us say?
But then
तो
Bumrah
कैसे
wouldn't.
होता वो होता कैसे?
Bumrah, हाँ मतलब होता कैसे? Because Bumrah would not face this, right?
नहीं, Bumrah would not have faced this, but say a woke cricketer, hypothetically, मैं तुमको एक float कर रहा हूँ idea. Say Rahul Dravid.
राहुल द्रविड़ वोक नहीं है, बट हाँ बोल ले अभी. दिल को
नहीं,
बहलाने के लिए ख्याल ही अच्छा है, बट बोलो.
नहीं, मैं बोल रहा हूँ ऐसे.
Some XYZ, whatever.
XYZ, who is not a Muslim, a Hindu Indian cricketer.
अहमद शर्मा.
Rakesh Khan.
क्या public response same होता? Or do you think the fact that he is a Muslim speaking out makes it much worse?
I
Or the
don't even-
idea in itself is a problem?
So क्या यू कहना चाहिए कि कोई वोक हिंदू क्रिकेटर होता है वो बोलते हैं कि मुस्लिम्स को घर नहीं मिलता है इंडिया में, ये एक प्रॉब्लम है.
हाँ, वो होता नहीं. अगर वो होता तो इंडिया में ये प्रॉब्लम नहीं होता. इरफान पठान को बोलना नहीं पड़ता ये चीज, वो मुझे पता है.
बट उसका छोटा सा एग्जांपल ये है, राइट, जब युवराज सिंह ने शायद अफरीदी के चैरिटी में डोनेट किया तो क्या
Yeah.
हुआ?
हाँ, तो क्या हुआ था?
He had to apologize.
And Yuvraj Singh is the closest because he's half Muslim. In the sense, his mother is Muslim.
Yes.
So you can but see, and again, go like the point is that there are abhi just recently, and it's a little tangent, but I just wanted to say, I was just reading about something on Kamli, right, and I realized that between 1995 when he played his last test when he was 23 to 2001,
2001.
6 years, his Ranji average was 68.
His eventual test average is what, around 48, 50,
54.
54.
But
Yeah.
the thing is, for like he played his last test in 95, right?
Yeah.
And between 95 to 2001, his average was 68 in Ranji, and I don't see why. Like we in 97, we went to
Didn't have
Sri
a middle
Lanka.
order.
We went to Sri Lanka where that 900 wala test happened, right?
Hmm.
Where and someone like Saurav Ganguly, to give you an example, he scored those 200s, but after scoring those 200s for the next 26 tests, if you like discount the first two tests, 24 tests or something, his batting average was 26. And okay, he was not dropped because they saw him as a prodigy, whatever, I don't know, but I just don't see a reason why was Gambly never, when Manjrekar was getting chances, right? Manjrekar played tests
Hmm.
against South Africa and India.
Vukeri Raman played in 97, yeah.
There were many batsmen who played during that period. It's okay.
Vikram Rathod has played a test match in
वो तो
between.
ठीक है,
So,
राठौड़ ओपनर था and all of that,
hmm.
but like
Hmm.
I just don't see a reason for Kamli not getting a chance.
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, by going by his Ranji performances, yes. But
Anyway, so this is a tangent. I'm
hmm.
sorry. This was something that I wanted to talk during our Darren Sammy and the way we look at players and the way
But he was
like we.
also
But
close to Sachin, so I don't know what happened there. So that also matters. And
I
not
don't
that
know.
getting close to Sachin should get you in the team, but I don't know. I mean, and Sachin was also the captain for a few years.
अब वनडे टीम में आया ना वो, but वही है.
Yeah, that's true.
but what irks me the most right now is the fact that Sachin Tendulkar अपने वड़ा पाव में कौन सा चटनी खाता है ये मुझे पता है. मतलब this is what I know, which I don't have to know that, but the fact that Sachin Tendulkar stands for his teammate or not is something we do not know and which we'll never know.
See,
He
I
does
don't
stand
want to
for Harbhajan Singh.
reduce, I don't want to reduce our listeners in half, but as I have said offline, outside the cricket field, Sachin Tendulkar is kind of pathetic and useless.
And we are huge Tendulkar fans to
Yes.
begin, so
Yeah.
it's
अबे
not
talk
like
about yourself.
हाँ,
नहीं, fans. Sachin,
batting के लिए
Sachin,
यार.
Sachin, Sachin.
Sachin. Tick, tick,
अच्छा,
tick.
सचिन सचिन के साथ के ये सेगमेंट में दिल की बातें सारी हो चुकी.
अगर एक ही लास्ट क्वेश्चन, अगर आप लोगों को अगर कोई भी उम्मीद है, you think that someday some cricketer will speak out, who is the most likely to do that?
उन्मुख चांद.
No, more realistically, probably Ashwin or Zach.
जैक
ईशान
जहीर
किशन.
खान बोल रहा है क्या?
हाँ,
हाँ,
नहीं, उन्मुख
either
चांद
Ashwin
इसलिए
or Zach.
अश्विन, हाँ अश्विन भी, पर पता नहीं, अब बोलना होता तो अभी तक बोल देता.
हाँ, he is also
but
talking
Ashwin is
to
too much of an
Sameer.
active cricketer ना. Active cricketers को मैंने फिर भी माफ किया.
मंजरेकर.
There is too much
Manjrekar
on the
may,
line.
yeah, Manjrekar might, Sidhu might.
सिद्धू यार, सिद्धू कुछ भी बोलेगा कोई सीरियसली नहीं लेगा ना, पॉलिटिकल हो
See,
जाएगा.
I think Gavaskar wants to, but he's also like kind of employed. So,
नहीं बट हाँ, वैसे गावस्कर बीच बीच में कुछ बोल देता है वैसे, जैसे लास्ट ईयर इंडिया पाकिस्तान के केस में गावस्कर ने
yeah.
कुछ बोल दिया था आज तक पे और उसको बहुत गाली पड़ा था.
Yeah, he basically said कि Bhakts were saying कि मतलब नहीं खेलना
forfeit
चाहिए,
कर दो.
and he was like कि उनको क्यों फोकट के 2 पॉइंट देना है and all those things. So
लॉजिकली बात की.
logically बात की तो उसी में गाली खा ली. So and this is against Sunil fucking Gavaskar. So where is this country going? I don't know. Yeah.
ठीक है, छोड़ो, रहने दो.
बट बेसिकली स्पाइनलेसनेस सिर्फ आज की बात नहीं है. इट हैज हैपेंड इन द पास्ट एंड बीसीसीआई, इंडियन क्रिकेट इज वन ऑफ द, फॉर द behemoth that it is, we don't have a functional players association. If you
हाँ,
even
and
countries,
BCCI will not allow it.
and even countries like New Zealand have a decent players association. We are one of the last countries. I don't know if we do have one now. Are we part of FICA, Federation of International? I don't think so.
I think I heard that there was some.
So that tells you how resistant we are to the fact that you can actually stand up to BCCI as an organization. The cricketers can never even stand up for their own interest, right? And this has happened in the past. Like I think Chris Shrikant in 1989 during the Pakistan tour was the captain, and I think he stood up for some salary hike or something like that, some contract related issues, and he was immediately, so that is when Azhar became the captain, right?
So the
So
first
Raj
news
Singh,
that I found is that BCCI approves Indian Cricketers Association.
but
In a significant first, the BCCI has, सबसे पहले the BCCI is approving, so like it's mandated through them.
Yeah.
BCCI has approved and recognized ICA, the official players body for former cricketers. Currently, the ICA is not affiliated to FICA, and will be restricted to only former players.
That proves our point, right? So they can't even stand up for their own rights. So forget talking about Irfan Pathan or Darren Sammy. What is there to protect them? There's absolutely nothing.
And this is where I think the whole argument that sometimes these people, when they are criticized, like I mean the cricketers, they मतलब ये ना जो और their defenders who come कि वो देश के लिए खेल रहा है and all those things, I just don't buy that pathetic argument ever. उसने पहली बात तो उसने क्रिकेट खेलना शुरू किया था अपने लिए because he liked the game. All credit to them for being the best at what they can do, and मतलब इतने millions billions people में top पे पहुंचना is not an easy thing, but they are not doing it for the country because their employers are fucking not. It's a private company basically.
I mean, it's like मैं इरफान पठान के ट्विटर के उस ट्वीट पे रिप्लाई पढ़ रहा था कि लोग इरफान पठान को बता रहे हैं कि भाई you should be glad that you were allowed to. I mean, what the fuck?
You're allowed to play. Like you are glad we may. You are allowed to be the man of the match in the World T20 final. I mean, what
you got the opportunity. हाँ. मतलब जैसे मेहरबानी सेम चीज जोफ्रा आर्चर को भी मिला था वैसे देसियों से when he cried about he quote unquote cried according to Bhakts about racism in New Zealand कि क्या मतलब कुछ भी तो नहीं बोला है खेल जाके मतलब यू आर बोलिंग बैडली इसके लिए एक्सक्यूज ढूंढ रहा है मतलब दिस इज हाउ वी रेस्पॉन्ड टू एवरीथिंग मतलब यू गो आफ्टर द विक्टिम बिकॉज दैट्स द इजियर थिंग टू डू
yeah. Because if you don't, then you have to like वो फिर वो गड़े मुर्दे निकल आएंगे ना या like you have to look under your carpet जहाँ पे तुम सब कर देते हो तो
और ये फीका की केस में वन लास्ट टेंजेंट इज कि बेसिकली वी Indian uncle thing, no? We are against the idea of unionizing. In any case, JNU में students को होने दो, they even if they unionize and ask for their own fellowship increase or reduction in fees or whatever, we'll be against that. That is culturally fundamentally different to the West in some sense. That idea, and that extends to Indian cricket also.
With that, let's close this segment because. The more we talk, the more we will talk. And moving on.
Jai Shri Ram.
Welcome back, folks. Welcome back को edit कर देना आदित्य क्योंकि ये episode में कहाँ है. But in this segment, we talk about the recent developments that are happening in the subcontinent and in China and the subcontinent. The broader
चाइना को भी जोड़ी लो यार सब.
हाँ चाइना ने हथियाना शुरू तो कर ही दिया.
मतलब एक चीज अच्छा ये सोच के लगता है कि कम से कम 60 स्क्वायर किलोमीटर का एरिया है इंडिया का जिसको हम डेवलप कहेंगे.
हाँ सही में.
तो फर्स्ट थॉट्स ऑन 60 स्क्वायर किलोमीटर डेवलपमेंट आदित्य.
वैसे डेवलपमेंट वहाँ पहले ही आ चुका था ना 3 इडियट्स के साथ में.
अबे वैसा डेवलपमेंट नहीं ये प्रॉपर डेवलपमेंट होगा. स्पेशल इकोनॉमिक जोन बनेगा.
वहाँ लैंड नहीं खरीद पाएंगे भक्त यार लेकिन.
अरे नहीं है कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. चाइनीज सोल्जर्स तुमको तो पता ही है दे आर जस्ट सिंगल चिल्ड्रन. दे आर वन चाइल्ड पॉलिसी. उसकी वजह से वो लोग सिर्फ फैमिली के बारे में सोचते हैं. एनीवे दे आर आल्सो एथिस्ट कंट्री है दोनों. हाँ तो फील्स नहीं है उनको मतलब दे आर जस्ट ऐसे ही नाम के लिए उनके पास नंबर्स है और कुछ नहीं. मोदी जी जब जिस दिन सोचेंगे ना वो 60 का 120 ले लेंगे वो.
बेसिकली इस लॉजिक से चले अगर सुधीर चौधरी का जो लॉजिक है सुधीर
देवगन
सुधीर चौधरी and Amish Devgan. So for our listeners, I'm sure you guys know, but still they think that because since the 60s China followed a one child policy, so therefore most if not all the Chinese soldiers come from the family where they are the only child, and therefore they'll care about their families and not want to die in the field. Whereas in India we have a family and then we have a spare Anil Ambani in each family.
Yeah, we have expendables.
Spare Anil Ambani.
मतलब दूसरे बच्चे का औकात ही नहीं कुछ
मतलब एक फर्जी है.
I hope सुधीर चौधरी अपने घर का बड़ा बच्चा नहीं है क्योंकि बाकी भाई लोग मार देंगे उसको. प्रमोद महाजन हो जाएगा उसका. मैं भी से
या फिर वही रीजन है,
जिसको इज्जत नहीं मिला।
उसको उसके घर में इज्जत नहीं मिला। आई थिंक सुधीर चौधरी इज द
पॉसिबल,
एक्सपेंडेबल।
इट्स पॉसिबल।
तो सुधीर जी को क्या लगता है कि अभी भी जो वॉर्स होते हैं वो कब महाभारत स्टाइल में होती हैं क्या? प्रभु इसके पेट पे बाण मारिए प्रभु, वैसा हो रहा है क्या? लाइक एंड ही इज वन ऑफ द टॉप एंकर्स ऑफ आवर कंट्री यार। लाइक क्या लगता है उस बंदे को?
वो रामनाथ गोयनका अवार्ड जीता है यार।
What?
इज इट ट्रू या फेक न्यूज है ये?
नहीं, कम ऑन, आई मीन कम
अरे
ऑन।
गूगल सुधीर चौधरी, यू विल फाइंड दैट उसके बायो पे।
अरे वो झूठ भी हो सकता है।
मुझे ये बताओ कि उसको क्या लगता है वॉर क्या होती है? और ये देवगन का तो खैर देवगन की तो मैं इज्जत नहीं,
देखो
देवगन तो है ही नहीं।
रामनाथ गोयनका एक्सेलेंस अवार्ड मिला है उसको
यार मैं कभी कभी
2 बार एंड वन टाइम इन
इन
2017।
2017।
क्या रामनाथ गोयनका के अलग अलग कैटेगरीज होती हैं यहाँ? तो एक क्या मतलब ऐसे प्रोपेगेंडा की भी कैटेगरी हो गई क्या?
बेस्ट जर्नलिस्ट प्रोपेगेंडा कैटेगरी
जी भाई, 2017 के 2017 में उसको मिला है, इसका मतलब है कि 2016 के वक्त पे मिला होगा, राइट? और 2016 में वो जीपीएस चिप लगा रहा था।
जीपीएस चिप लगाया 2016 में उसने।
Amazing.
मॉर्फ वीडियो चलाया जेएनयू
तो वो
का।
15 में 15-16 ही था,
लेट
सेम ही, हाँ,
लेट
सेम
15,
ही था।
16 अर्ली 16 था वो।
तो मैं अपने
हाँ।
लिसनर से कहूंगा कि जरा ध्यान से बैठिए और सोचिए। सुधीर चौधरी, यार सुधीर चौधरी के साथ साथ ही दूसरे की भी बात करते कि जो लोग कहते हैं कि कैपिटलिज्म इज द परफेक्ट सिस्टम और द इनविजिबल हैंड ऑफ मार्केट फिक्सेस एवरीथिंग, वो इस बात पे क्या कहेंगे कि अमीश देवगन जैसा लो आईक्यू आदमी करोड़पति होके बैठा है इंडिया में? लाइक मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि मैं मतलब ऑनेस्टली लाइक फक ऑल ऑफ यू, मुझे ये बताओ कि मेरे पास अमीश देवगन जितना पैसा क्यों नहीं है, क्या कमी है मेरे में?
या तो इस कंटेक्स्ट में हैव यू हर्ड ऑफ एनीथिंग आउटसाइड ऑफ, हैव यू हर्ड ऑफ एनी भक्ट्स टॉकिंग अबाउट चाइना बेसिकली?
नहीं।
Yeah, I mean they are just वो कर रहे हैं ना, मतलब boycotting Chinese products on their Xiaomi phones and yeah, and
नहीं, पर उसमें भी एक चीज है।
best part was अभी गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया ने एक खुद का टिकटॉक अकाउंट बना लिया है। तो भक्तों के लिए कभी कभी आई फील राइट, आई मीन वो जी जान से घुस जाते हैं गोबर में, और फिर जो उनके आका लोग हैं वो बोलते हैं कि नहीं अब तुम गंदे हो गए हो, हम कुछ और करेंगे।
अरे गोबर का लेप लगाना पसंद है इतना उनको, क्या कर सकते हैं, मतलब दे एंजॉय दैट। पता नहीं क्या क्या बॉयकॉट किया है अब तक।
भक्तों को गाली दो, ठीक है? भक्तों क्या सोच रहे हैं अभी मैं बताता हूँ। भक्तों के हिसाब से ट्रूस हो गया है इंडिया चाइना बॉर्डर में और सब वापस
ट्रूस
चले
नहीं
गए।
हुआ, वॉर जीत गई है इंडिया।
नहीं, मैं रियलिस्टिक हूँ, ट्रूस हुआ है।
ओके।
और इंडिया
ट्रूस हुआ किस रीजन से है?
मैं बताऊं हुआ क्या था। कि इधर से इंडियन आर्मी आ रही थी, इधर से चाइनीज आर्मी आ रही थी, इधर से इंडियन आर्मी आ रही थी, इधर से चाइनीज आर्मी आ रही थी। इंडियन आर्मी के बीच से अजीत डोभाल दौड़ते हुआ है चाइनीज आर्मी की तरफ, और जाके चाइनीज आर्मी का जो मेन आदमी उसके पैरों पे गिर कर चलने लगा, आई कांट ब्रीथ। तो चाइनीज आर्मी को लगा ओ फक, ये तो केस हो सकता है सर, तुम लोग पीछे
और इंडियन आर्मी बोला हम
बहुत ही गंदा जोक था, सॉरी।
और इंडियन आर्मी के लोग चिल्लाते हुए गए कि आई एम चाइल्ड नंबर 2, आई एम चाइल्ड नंबर 2।
और एथिज्म वाला भी बात कर लेते हैं इस एक तीर से दो शिकार हुए, एथिज्म वाले बात करेंगे क्योंकि ये जो लिबरल्स इंडिया के वो भी एथिस्ट है ना, जैसे जावेद अख्तर टाइप, अपने टाइप
कौमी,
ठीक है? तो मतलब इसलिए अपन नेशनलिस्ट भी नहीं है क्योंकि अपन एथिस्ट हैं। अगर आप एथिस्ट हो तो आप कहाँ से नेशनलिस्ट हो गए? सिंपल।
लेकिन तो यू मीन टू से दैट अ मुस्लिम बीइंग नेशनलिस्ट का लाइक्लीहुड इज हायर देन अस बीइंग नेशनलिस्ट, या
मुस्लिम इज नेशनलिस्ट
इक्वल है?
मुस्लिम लाइक व्हाट अक्षय कुमार डिफाइंस, हाँ मतलब उसका तो है डेफिनेटली,
उसका है मतलब
बट लेकिन अगर कोई थोड़ा और ज्यादा, इफ ही इज मोर, आई डोंट नो व्हाट्स द राइट टर्म, मोर विजिबली मुस्लिम, तो फिर उसको प्रॉब्लम भी हो सकती है।
सेम सीन हुआ ना भक्तों का,
मतलब तुम्हारा, हाँ मतलब नाम तक चलेगा, मतलब अहमद खान, यू नो दिस वुड वर्क, बट as soon as you have a beard and a skull cap, then you are just
कलाम वाला, मतलब
हाँ कलाम वाला चाहिए उनको।
हाँ मतलब बेसिकली कलाम वाला मुस्लिम तक ही लिमिट है, उसके आगे आप नहीं जा सकते।
बट वहां तक दे आर मोर नेशनलिस्ट देन पीपल लाइक अस। जैसे भक्तों का क्या मतलब हार्ट ब्रेक हुआ कि रिचर्ड डॉकिंस भक्तों का बहुत फेवरेट है, बहुत सारे
हिंदू एथीस्ट,
इंजीनियरिंग
हिंदू
टाइप भक्तों
एथीस्ट,
का।
क्योंकि
ठीक
मुस्लिम्स
है,
को भी वो करता है
हाँ,
ना वो।
हाँ हाँ
क्योंकि ही बेसिकली टेक्स ऑन एन आइडिया, राइट? ही डजंट टेक ऑन, ही टेक्स ऑन अ रिलीजन बिकॉज ही टेक्स ऑन एन आइडिया। उतने तो इंजीनियरिंग भक्ts के लिए डॉकिंस बहुत फेवरेट है। अचानक से जावेद अख्तर को अवार्ड मिल गया तो अब प्रॉब्लम हो गया। अब तो बस, अब तो ये बिका हुआ आदमी है वैसे सीधे।
सीधे मतलब रिचर्ड डॉकिंस की सारी बुक्स अनरेड कर दी हैं उन लोगों ने।
हाँ,
उसके ऊपर से
जैसे
रिचर्ड
हार्वर्ड
डॉकिंस ने
जाना
और क्या
बंद
किया
कर
पता
दिया।
है? रिचर्ड डॉकिंस को ट्रोल किया तो रिचर्ड डॉकिंस ने फेड डिसूजा की एक वीडियो रीट्वीट कर दिया।
हाँ,
बस।
मतलब अब भक्तों का सोचो, भक्त हार्वर्ड नहीं जाएंगे अभी। इवोल्यूशन, दे माइट आल्सो स्टार्ट गिविंग अप
मतलब
इवोल्यूशन।
10 लोगों का दे मतलब टोर डाउन देयर एडमिट लेटर्स फ्रॉम हार्वर्ड यार।
आई एम प्रिटी श्योर रेणुका जैन अभी अपने बेटे को आईवी लीग्स नहीं भेजेगी।
नहीं भेजेगी।
क्योंकि उसका बेटा तो हर हफ्ते एक नया यूनिवर्सिटी जाता ही है, तो इट्स ओके।
रेणुका
वो
जैन ने कर दिया
रेणुका
डिलीट
जैन
अपने बेटे का।
हाँ,
नाउ शी इज राइडिंग इनटू द सनसेट।
चाइना गए। हाँ,
हाँ, चाइना,
चाइना
चाइना
एंड
नेपाल।
नेपाल।
तो
हाँ।
तो हो ये रहा है कि जैसे ही तो भक्तों से बोलो चाइना तो भक्त बोलते हैं नेपाल। ठीक है। तो
नेपाल तो एथिस्ट नहीं है। नेपाल इज द असली विराट हिंदू।
इनफैक्ट अपन से 1% ऊपर है वो लोग। हिंदुइज्म में 81% है वो, अपन 80%।
वही तो मैं
अपन
बोल रहा हूँ,
80%
विराट हिंदू है वो लोग
विराट
असली।
हिंदूज।
हाँ,
तो गोइंग बैक टू चाइना, to so basically, if you guys remember, if you guys, as in all the listeners, um, that lake, that Pangong Lake, that lake from Three Idiots, the Pangong Lake. So that lake is basically half of it is India and the other half.
हाफ से भी कम एक्चुअली ओरिजिनली।
But now basically truce हो गया है, war, there is no fighting happening, and now China is claiming all of the lake. और अमित शाह जी का statement आ गया है कि we don't want any land from China
एंड पाकिस्तान
and
हाँ,
Pakistan.
तो सोचो अखंड भारत का छन से जो टूटे कोई सपना हो गया।
तो थर्मामीटर लगाया था, उसका क्या हुआ?
थर्मोमीटर।
मेट डिपार्टमेंट ने वहां पे थर्मामीटर लगा के वेदर रिपोर्ट करना
ओ
शुरू
हाँ
किया था
हाँ
यार,
राइट
पीओके में।
राइट।
तो अब क्या होगा? पैसा, इन्वेस्टमेंट वेस्ट गया यार।
पर सवाल ये है कि तो चाइना को हमने सबक सिखाया कि नहीं सिखाया, मुझे कि वो टॉपिक अब भूल जाओ, डिमोनेटाइजेशन की तरह।
भूल जाओ, भूल जाओ।
भूल जाओ देखो
अरे
अभी नेपाली वो सिखा रहे हैं ना, नेपाल को सबक
नहीं
सिखाना है।
नहीं, फैन फिक्शन ये है कि फैन फिक्शन में ऐसा लिखा है कि मोदी जी को देख के इतना डर गए वो लोग, इसलिए ट्रूस हो गया। ट्रूस का असली रीजन वो था।
मोदी जी की नई मूंछ देख के।
हाँ।
और नेपाल,
अरे नेपाल का तो क्या है, नेपाल अगर ले भी लेगा लैंड तो इवेंचुअली अखंड भारत का तो नेपाल असली हकदार है ना, तो नेपाल को थोड़ा बहुत देना बनता है।
नेपाल को दे नहीं रहे हैं अपन, इतने भी नहीं है अभी। अभी चाइना ने ज्यादा ऊंच नीच की तो नेपाल पे सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक कर देगा इंडिया।
इंडिया।
नहीं नेपाल का करेंगे भी क्या ना, मतलब जैसे चाइना में तो अपना फ्रस्ट्रेशन निकाल देते, दो तीन बार ऐप अनइंस्टॉल कर देंगे।
नेपाल के साथ क्या करेंगे यार?
अभी बीच
हिंदुइज्म
में
तो छोड़ नहीं सकते।
अभी भी एग्जैक्टली अभी बीच में ये चल रहा था ना कि अभी
लोग मोमो चला रहे हैं क्या? यार racist बात
मोमो
है।
जला रहे नहीं अभी एक वो हुआ था ना कि आई थिंक अराउंड 8 और 9 जून दिस वन प्लस वाज गोइंग टू लॉन्च अ न्यू मॉडल। तो these little मतलब good for
Fuckers.
nothings मतलब uneducated saddle fuckers, they are tweeting from their Xiaomi mobiles कि OnePlus मत खरीदना, we are going to show them using our pockets।
भाई वो कोई भी फोन में से ट्वीट करता तो
साले
सीन तो
तेरी
वही था, आईफोन से भी करता तो वही सीन होता ना।
अबे तेरे पजामे के नाड़े में मेड इन चाइना लिखा होगा, मतलब
हाँ।
निकाल के फेंक दे वो पहले, मतलब what the fuck is wrong।
So what was even better was that someone came up with an app, uninstall Chinese apps। ये ऐप का पर्पस है।
बाबा रामदेव भी जवाब है कि बाबा रामदेव ग्रुप से कोई लाया है वो।
वो ब- वो नेपाली है ना, जो बाबा रामदेव का जो सीईओ है वो नेपाली है ना एक्चुअली।
बा, बा, अरे इससे मुझे याद है, मेरे को
बाल
सबसे
कृष्ण,
स्ट्रेस
हाँ।
किस चीज हो रहा है पता है? उदित
अरे
नारायण
उसको
के लिए।
मैंने उसको मैंने सामने देखा है नागपुर एयरपोर्ट पे।
उदित
Oh my
नारायण।
God! अभी मैं this is around about 2018 when I was actually in Nagpur, and we were just driving around with just some folks, and somebody pointed to like the biggest warehouse I've ever seen। मैंने यहाँ पे यूएस में Amazon का भी इतना बड़ा नहीं देखा है, and that was Patanjali's। and there is a like they have got that for such a dirt cheap price. You cannot even imagine. So
एंड एंड
and the CEO is a Nepali, so
उसका नाम कोई बालचंद्र क्या ऐसा कुछ.
Balkrishna.
Acharya. The thing that frustrates me most is that um, so Nepal was coming up with their new constitution a few years back, and in that constitution, the government of India thought that they were not giving enough rights to Madhesis. Madhesis are the
मतलब
Indian, like in Nepal, they consider them the plain people, as in the people who live in the plains, and basically it's for India. That's what they are.
मतलब वो यूपी बिहार बॉर्डरिंग
हाँ.
एरिया
And
ऑफ
and at the same time there was a huge earthquake in Nepal. So what
जिस
Modi ji did was Modi ji sent our current foreign minister, who was back then our like foreign secretary, and prominent like Nepali journalists, Nepali newspapers covered that he did not come as a representative of a friendly nation. It seemed like an imperial viceroy had come to talk to us. That is how
बड़े भाई, हाँ, big brother types. हाँ.
and then the earthquake happened and they had not amended the constitution, so the Indian government blocked medicines to reach to Nepal. That doubled the anger, and over time,
एंड देन उसी टाइम पे देन दैट वाज आल्सो दिस इंडियन मीडिया का कॉन्डेसेंडिंग कार्टून्स एंड स्टफ राइट कि माँ बच्चे को
हाँ,
गोद में लेके बैठी है और बच्चा रो रहा है दैट बच्चा इज सपोज्ड टू बी नेपाल
so basically like over and in parallel, China is has kept reaching out to Nepal. When India blocked, China sent meds and stuff. So right now at this point, Nepal is firmly in the corner of China. So I don't look at what Nepal is doing independently of what China is doing. I think Nepal by itself would not, like, why would they
Align at least.
randomly do something like this, right?
No, obviously there is the Chinese influence. There's no doubt about it.
Go on.
सुधीर चौधरी की तरह मैं एक
बोल दे.
सवाल पोस्ट करता हूँ बेसिकली
सवाल किसके लिए है? ऑपोजिशन के लिए?
नहीं सवाल ऑपोजिशन के लिए पर्सपेक्टिव सोचो ना अगर से यू आर अ नेपाली और अ श्रीलंकन और एनीबडी फ्रॉम द रीजन ये क्या एटीट्यूड है कि ये बाप होता है बेटा होता है बड़ा भाई छोटा भाई ये क्या नॉनसेंस है मतलब व्हाई डू यू हैव टू एंथ्रोपोमॉर्फाइज अ नेशन टू एन एक्सटेंट वेयर अगर तुम्हारे बारे में कोई अगर ये सोचे how would you feel as a say you are a citizen of Nepal or Sri Lanka ये बोलेगा कोई कि मैं बड़ा and this happens even when an Indian meets a Nepali or a Pakistani they treat the other person that way I have seen this happening in front of me I have seen people
it's a huge cultural thing right it's a huge cultural thing क्योंकि मतलब वही elders की respect होती है तो अपने आप को ही बोल दो कि हम elder हैं
they might be the same age also but वो attitude वो condescending attitude वहाँ पे उनका personal equation में भी मैंने देखा
क्यों होता है ऐसा क्या लगता है
मैं सोच रहा हूँ मतलब हाउ वुड यू फील एज अ नेपाली और अ श्रीलंकन आई एम नॉट इवन सेइंग दिस कि मैं कुछ एंटी इंडिया बोलने के लिए नहीं बोल रहा हूँ जस्ट गिविंग अ पर्सपेक्टिव
मैं कभी एंटी इंडिया बोला आज तक कुछ
हम लोग नहीं है वही मैं बोल रहा हूँ आई एम जस्ट गिविंग लाइक कि व्हाई वी आर नेशनलिस्ट हम लोग रैशनल लोग क्यों हैं ये बताने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ
परदेश का जो अमरीश पुरी का कैरेक्टर था वो मेरे ऊपर लिखा गया है ठीक है
मेरे ऊपर तो तारा बाबू लिखा गया था
मैं तो विवेक अग्निहोत्री की अगली मूवी में मैं ही हूँ
but I think we have this need to ascribe relationship with like हम
it's a cultural thing ना मतलब बड़े और कभी भी हम बड़ी बहन या माँ नहीं होते हैं मतलब हम बाप या दादा या भाई
how do we look like how do we look at America like has like because technically then America is our बड़ा भैया नहीं
अमेरिका के साथ रिलेशन ऐसा है ना वो सदाशिव अमरापुरकर और रामकिशन जी का जो इक्वेशन था वैसे
और
इसीलिए जब ट्रम्प डोलन भाई आते हैं तो हम ढोकला खिलाते हैं ऐसे
और इन सब में नेपाल अनवर मियां आई थिंक बहुत इंटेलिजेंट आउटथिंग्स दे दिया हमने नेपाल अनवर मियां बना के अगर नेपाल अनवर मियां तो फिर पाकिस्तान क्या है
गौरव सावंत लेवल का तो दे ही दिया हम
अगर नेपाल अनवर मियां तो पाकिस्तान क्या है
पाकिस्तान और मोमो की फ्रेंड्स
पाकिस्तान और बांग्लादेश मोस्ट प्लेयर्स।
पाकिस्तान और बांग्लादेश दोनों, हाँ, दोनों को साथ में क्लब कर दो।
हाँ
हाँ, अब वो फिर भी अपन इज्जत ज्यादा पाकिस्तान की करते हैं बांग्लादेश से, पूछो क्यों?
हाँ, स्किन कलर।
गोरे हैं वो
सिंगल,
लोग।
एग्जैक्टली।
सब कुछ कवर हो गया आज। सब कवर कर लिया अपन ने।
और सब कुछ अनकवर भी हो गया है।
With that, we'd like to wrap this segment. Jai Shri Ram, Jai Bajrang Bali.